If there's someone in your life that makes you feel crazy, but everyone else thinks they're perfect, you might be dealing with the most dangerous type of narcissist. They're called Covert Narcissists. And here's what makes them so dangerous. They've perfected the art of making you look like the problem. By the end of this video, you'll know their 7 tactics. But here's what you need to understand first. Unlike regular narcissists who announce themselves with arrogance, covert narcissists hide behind humility. They're the victim, the martyr, the misunderstood soul, which is exactly how they trap you. So here's the first sign you need to watch for. And this one is critical because it's their foundation. Sign number 1. They play the victim constantly. But here's what most people miss. Everyone faces hardships, but covert narcissists weaponize their suffering. They don't share pain to heal, they share it to control you. Let me show you exactly how this works. Imagine you tell them about a hard day at work. What happens next reveals everything. Within seconds, they've hijacked the conversation. Suddenly, their day was worse, their boss more cruel, their struggle more valid, and now you're comforting them about your problem. This isn't empathy. This is emotional theft, and it gets worse. Because this pattern trains you. Over time, you stop sharing your needs entirely. You learn that your pain doesn't matter, only theirs does. Which brings us to the second sign. And this one is so subtle that most people don't catch it until years later. Backhanded compliments. But the manipulation here goes deeper than you think. These aren't accidental insults. They're precision strikes designed to destabilize your self-worth. A covert narcissist will say things like, "Wow, you're so brave to wear that in public." Sounds supportive, right? But listen to what they're actually saying. They're telling you that what you're wearing is questionable, that most people wouldn't have the audacity to wear it, that you should be self-conscious about it, all wrapped in the word brave. Or they'll say, "I wish I could be as carefree about my appearance as you are." Translation: you don't care enough about how you look. You're sloppy. But again, they've framed it as admiration. Here's the genius of this tactic. You can't call them out without looking oversensitive. If you say, "That hurt my feelings," they'll respond with, "I was giving you a compliment. Why are you being so defensive?" And now you're the problem. You're the one who can't take a compliment and the one overreacting. This is gaslighting in its purest form. Over time, these backhanded compliments accumulate. You become hyper-aware of your flaws. You're constantly seeking their approval, trying to do things that won't trigger another disguised insult. You've been trained to see yourself through their critical lens, which is exactly what they want. A destabilized person is easier to control, but here's what you need to understand about why they do this. Covert narcissists are deeply insecure. Your confidence threatens them. So they chip away at it, one fake compliment at a time. Now, this leads us directly into the third sign, and this one will make everything else make sense. Sign number 3. They're passive-aggressive masters. And this is where their true nature becomes impossible to hide. Covert narcissists never tell you directly when they're upset. Direct confrontation requires vulnerability, and vulnerability requires emotional maturity they don't have. Instead, they punish you through indirect methods. The silent treatment, forgetting things they promised, making subtle digs disguised as jokes. Let me give you a real example. You ask them to pick up groceries on their way home. They agree, but come home empty-handed. And when you ask about it, they say, "Oh, I totally forgot. I've just been so stressed." It sounds innocent, but here's what's really happening. They're punishing you for something. Maybe you didn't respond to a text fast enough earlier. Maybe you made plans without consulting them. Maybe you were happy about something they're jealous of. The forgotten groceries aren't an accident. They're retaliation. But because they've framed it as forgetfulness, you can't address the real issue. And if you get upset, they'll say, "I made a mistake. Why are you making such a big deal out of this? You're being dramatic." Now you're apologizing for being hurt by their intentional punishment. You're managing their emotions while they take zero accountability. This is the pattern, and here's the truly insidious part. Over time, you become hypervigilant about their moods. You're constantly scanning for signs that they're upset, so you can prevent the passive-aggressive retaliation. You've become responsible for their emotional regulation while they remain a child, throwing silent tantrums. Which brings us to the fourth sign, and this one will shock you. Sign number 4. They secretly envy you. And this might be the most unexpected sign on this list, because covert narcissists are masters at hiding their jealousy. Here's what most people don't realize. Covert narcissists are consumed by envy. But unlike other narcissists who might openly compete with you or brag to one-up you, covert narcissists express their envy through subtle undermining. You get a promotion at work. A normal friend celebrates with you. They're genuinely happy for your success. But a covert narcissist? Watch what happens. They'll say something like, "That's great. I just couldn't handle that kind of pressure." Sounds humble, right? But listen to what they're actually communicating. They're implying that you're going to fail under the pressure, that you've made a mistake taking on something so demanding, that they're smarter for avoiding it, all while appearing supportive and self-aware. Or maybe you're happy in a new relationship. You're glowing. You're excited to share your joy. A covert narcissist will immediately find the flaw. You two seem so intense. I hope it's not one of those codependent situations. Now your joy is tainted with doubt. Are you being codependent? Is your happiness actually a red flag? This is the pattern. Your wins highlight their perceived failures. Your happiness reminds them of their emptiness, and they can't handle it. So instead of being genuinely happy for you, they diminish your achievements. They find ways to make your moments about them and their feelings. They redirect attention back to their own narrative. Pay very close attention to how people in your life react when good things happen to you. A covert narcissist will never let you shine without dimming your light just a little. And here's why this matters so much. Over time, you stop sharing your wins with them. You downplay your achievements. You hide your happiness because you've learned that sharing good news results in feeling worse, not better. They've trained you to shrink yourself to accommodate their fragile ego, which leads us perfectly into the fifth sign. Sign number 5. They are extremely sensitive to criticism. And I mean any criticism, no matter how gentle or constructive. Here's what makes this so toxic. You cannot have a healthy relationship with someone you can't give feedback to. Relationships require communication. Communication requires the ability to address problems. But with a covert narcissist, any attempt at feedback becomes a crisis. You gently suggest they could have handled something differently, and suddenly you're the villain who's attacking them. Let me give you an example. Maybe they forgot to call you back when they said they would. It's happened multiple times. You finally say, "Hey, when you say you call and don't, it makes me feel like I'm not a priority." A healthy person would say, "You're right, I'm sorry. I'll be more mindful about following through." But a covert narcissist? Watch what happens. Their eyes well up with tears. Their voice cracks. They say something like, "I can't believe you think I don't care about you. I've been so stressed, and instead of supporting me, you're attacking me. I feel like I can never do anything right with you." Notice what just happened. You brought up a legitimate concern about a pattern of behavior, and now you're comforting them for being hurt by your valid feedback. The conversation has completely reversed. You're no longer discussing the actual problem. You're managing their emotional breakdown. You're reassuring them that you don't think they're a bad person. And here's the manipulation. The message you receive is clear. Bringing up problems causes them pain. If you care about them, you won't do it again. So, over time, you stop. You stop mentioning when they hurt you. You stop asking for what you need. You walk on eggshells, carefully monitoring everything you say to avoid triggering their fragile ego. You've learned that peace is more important than honesty, that their comfort matters more than your needs. This is exactly what they want, a relationship where they never have to be accountable. And this creates an environment where resentment builds silently, where problems never get resolved, where you slowly lose yourself trying to protect someone who refuses to grow. Which brings us to the sixth sign. And this one is particularly cruel. They compare you to others constantly. And these comparisons are always designed to make you feel inadequate. Covert narcissists use comparisons as a tool to keep you insecure and striving for their approval. They want you to feel like you're never quite measuring up. They'll say things like, "Sarah would never react like this. Who's Sarah? Maybe an ex, maybe a friend, maybe someone they just made up. It doesn't matter. The point is that Sarah is better than you." Or, "My ex used to cook dinner every night. Now you feel guilty for not cooking enough. You feel like you're failing as a partner, even though you never agreed to cook every night, and this might not even be true about their ex." Or, "Why can't you be more like your sister? She's so organized." Now you're being compared to your own family member. Your worth is being measured against someone else's strengths while your own strengths are ignored. Here's what makes this so insidious. These comparisons serve multiple purposes simultaneously. First, they keep you insecure and constantly trying to improve to meet their standards. Second, they position the covert narcissist as the reasonable person surrounded by inadequate people. Everyone else is the problem. They're just pointing out facts. And third, these comparisons create competition and division. You start resenting Sarah, or the ex, or your sister. Even though they're not the problem, the covert narcissist is. But here's what you need to understand. They're not actually praising those other people either. If you talk to Sarah, you discover that the covert narcissist compares her unfavorably to someone else too. Nobody is ever good enough. The comparison game is designed so that everyone loses except the narcissist, who gets to maintain their position of judgment and superiority. Pay attention to how often someone compares you to others. Healthy relationships celebrate your unique qualities. Toxic relationships make you feel like you're in constant competition, And this leads us directly into the seventh sign, which is one of the most painful tactics they use. Sign number 7. They withhold affection as punishment. This is emotional abuse in its most calculated form. When a covert narcissist is upset with you, whether you actually did something wrong or not, they withdraw emotionally. They become cold, distant, unavailable. But here's the cruelest part. They won't tell you why. You're left in the dark, desperately trying to figure out what you did wrong so you can fix it. You ask, "Are you okay? Did I do something?" They respond with, "I'm fine," in a tone that clearly indicates they are not fine. Or they say, "Nothing's wrong," while refusing to make eye contact. This is the silent treatment weaponized. It's not just someone needing space to process their emotions. It's a deliberate punishment designed to make you suffer until you figure out what pleased them. And here's what makes this so psychologically damaging. You become hyper-vigilant. You're constantly monitoring their mood, scanning for signs of displeasure, trying to anticipate what might upset them next. You start overcompensating. You do extra things to try to win back their warmth. You apologize for things you're not even sure you did. You beg for communication. And the whole time, they watch you scramble. This is a power dynamic. They've learned that withdrawing affection makes you desperate for their approval. So they use it whenever they want to control your behavior or punish you for perceived slights. And the cruelest part? When they finally decide to give you their attention again, you're so grateful for the crumbs of affection that you don't even address the original problem. You're just relieved the punishment is over. You've been trained like a dog. Good behavior gets affection. Bad behavior gets the cold shoulder. Except you never actually know what counts as good or bad because the rules constantly change based on their mood. This is how covert narcissists maintain control without ever having to communicate honestly or take responsibility for their feelings. They just punish you with silence until you learn to behave the way they want. If you recognized multiple signs in someone you know, trust your instincts. You're not imagining this. You're not overreacting. Covert narcissism is real, and the psychological damage it causes is severe. The good news? Now that you can see these patterns, you can't unsee them. And that awareness is the first step toward protecting yourself. These 7 signs are just the beginning of understanding covert narcissistic behavior. The more you learn about these patterns, the better equipped you are to protect your mental health and set boundaries. Subscribe if you haven't. You're not alone in this. Understanding these patterns is how you take your power back.